Just a couple of years ago, I would watch a video on hard work or productivity, get a burst of motivation, and for the next 3 days, I would be highly productive. But there was just one problem. By day 4, I would go back to my old habits. I would procrastinate work and just fill my life with cheap doses of instant pleasure. And this cycle of being productive for a couple of days and then going back to ground zero went on for years. But the good news is that is not who I am anymore. For the last 4 years, I've become incredibly consistent. I've been lifting weights at the gym, training martial arts 6 days a week, doing 4 hours of deep focused work each morning, and reading multiple books a month. The biggest reason why I was able to make this transformation was because I stopped relying on motivation, which is a limited resource, and instead I started building long-lasting discipline. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 4 key strategies I use to build this discipline. So let's get right into it. At this point, I probably read dozens of self-help books, watched hundreds of podcasts on neurology and psychology, and I've come to understand that there are 2 sources of energy that a person could rely on to do productive things. Let's call them Engine 1 and Engine 2. You could rely on Engine 1, which is your willpower or your motivation. This source of energy is based on raw emotions. But the thing is, it is quite small. It can last maybe a couple of days. And this is the fuel source that most people are taught to use. But then there's this other engine, which is your identity-based source of energy. Think about this person who has been going to the gym for the last 10 years. How much effort do you think he's going to have to put to get to his next workout? The answer is not a lot of effort. That's because going to the gym and working out has now become part of his identity. So he does not use his emotional engine at all, but rather uses his identity engine. And the best thing about identity-based engines is that they're incredibly long-lasting. Now the question is, this source of energy seems pretty amazing and all that, but how do I start using my identity engine? Think of identities as voting boxes. Each time you do a behavior in favor of that identity, you are basically voting for that identity. Each time you work out, you are strengthening the identity of someone who trains. The reason why this happens is because your brain has this ability to rewire itself based on the actions that you're doing. If you repeatedly do an activity, then your brain gets really efficient at doing that activity. And because of this, that activity begins to feel effortless. So start by asking yourself this question: what are the 2 to 3 things that I would like to get really consistent at? For me, these things were learning how to code, working out, and reading a book. These were the most fulfilling things to me, and I wanted to get really consistent at them. The next thing I did was I fixed the exact times in the day at which I would be doing these activities. Having an easy to follow routine eliminates this process of decision making and makes it much more likely that you are going to do that task. Now for the next 2 weeks, my mission was to do the things on my routine just in bare minimum amounts. So each day I would only code for 20-30 minutes, then I would go to train for another 20 minutes, and then I would come back and read like 5 pages of a book. Now these micro doses might not really seem much, but they build your identity engine. So be careful not to go too intensely at the start, else you're going to deplete your emotion-based sources even before your identity engine is ready. After around 2 to 3 weeks, once I started developing a feel for these activities, that is when I started increasing the intensity of these behaviors. Every 3 to 4 days, I would increase my study time by 5 minutes, and then I would increase either the duration or the intensity of my workout by 5%. Just by repeating this process of progressively increasing the intensity of an activity, I started to study 4 hours a day, train for an hour, and read 20 pages each day. I discovered that this is the upper limit for me. If I go beyond this, I start to feel burnt out. So you might have to experiment a bit to figure out your maximum tolerable volume and then operate just under it. When you're just starting out with a routine, do not have more than 3 to 4 activities on it. Try to add breaks of at least 15 to 20 minutes between each of these activities. And most importantly, make sure that your routine is fun. Because if your routine begins to feel like this giant mountain that you have to climb, then you're not going to adhere to it. It's okay to do a bit less on some days. Like some days I have a study session that is scheduled for 2 hours, but then it begins to feel so daunting. So instead of just completely skipping it, I decide to do just 30 minutes of it. What this does is, firstly, you retain your momentum. And secondly, you are still growing that identity engine. So get rid of this all or nothing mindset and start teaching yourself that it is okay to do less on some days. Now I know I've been shitting on this emotional engine for a while, but the truth is there are going to be times when this is needed. Some days life just happens and your systems and routines, they're just thrown out the window. For example, if you're on a diet and you suddenly find someone eating dessert on the same table as you, or you have a workout scheduled on your routine, but you get a call from your friends that, hey, come over, we're all hanging out, then you are going to be relying on this willpower engine to resist these impulses. The good news is that if you have good structures in your life, then these situations are quite rare, like 5 to 10%. And secondly, you can actually grow this willpower engine too. You see, there is a region of the brain that is responsible for generating willpower. The cool thing is that you can actually grow this region of the brain by doing things that you find challenging. So in my routine, I have plenty of things that do just that. Things like cold shower, fasting, working out even when I feel a bit lazy, trying to do some deep work even at times when I don't really feel like doing it. It is by doing all these things on a regular basis that I have been able to maximize my willpower engine. But there is just one problem. Just how doing certain things can grow this region of the brain, there are also things that can shrink this region of the brain and harm your willpower engine. If you're constantly indulging in short-term pleasures, things like watching pornography, doom scrolling, fast food, then you're actively shrinking this region. The way that I prevent myself from falling into this trap of instant pleasure is by having rules in place. These rules are designed to protect me from making impulsive decisions. For example, I have this rule that I'm not going to stay up past a certain time at night. No matter what happens, whether I'm sleepy or not, I'm just going to hit the bed. Another rule that I have is that I'm going to put my phone on flight mode for the first 4 hours of the day. This way, I don't doom scroll, I don't get any notifications, and I can just focus on doing distraction-free work. The third rule that I have says that I am not allowed to have any form of processed food in my house, not even fast food delivery apps. So if you constantly find yourself slipping into instant pleasures, then perhaps it is time for you to design your personal code of conduct. What if I told you that there was a way to grow both these engines at the same time? No, it's not some pill or some course, but it's rather the 3 foundational principles of health. If you're the type of person that eats a lot of processed food, has no fixed eating times, then both your engines are going to be rusty and you're going to have a very hard time being disciplined. But if you're the person that seriously commits some time and energy into cleaning out his diet, having only whole natural foods at fixed times of the day, and have some sort of a fasting window where you're actually hungry, then both your engines are going to see growth within days. If you're this person that stays up till 2 a.m., chit chats with friends, and then goes to bed at a random time, wakes up at a random time, doesn't get sunlight all day, then guess what? No amount of binge watching productivity videos is going to get you out of this rut. But if you're the type of man that spends time and energy in optimizing his sleep, he gets up and gets plenty of sunlight during the early parts of the day, he dims the lights in his room in the later parts of the day, he avoids screens, he avoids stimulants, then both your engines are going to be firing on all cylinders. If you're the type of person that has a desk job, you're sitting and staring at screens for 8 hours a day, your body has not felt the resistance of weight, it has not felt its heart beating fast, its lungs being filled up, then you're missing out not just on the exterior gains, but so many other neurological and psychological benefits. But if you are the type of man that works out 3 to 5 times a week, does some form of strength training and does some form of cardiovascular training, then your brain is being marinated by a cocktail of healthy neurotransmitters that do absolute wonders for it. Look, you're probably convinced that discipline is something that is incredibly powerful, but the truth is that you can only stick to being disciplined in the long term when you find it enjoyable. So make sure that you watch this video to make being disciplined actually fun.